Welcome to Oops, All Monsters, a deadly, unserious show about creatures, cryptids, and curiosities curated by two weirdos from wild and wonderful West Virginia. That weirdo with me when I can pull him away from his interdimensional bounty hunting is Gavin.
And that weirdo with me over there whose face is so scarred, covered by a mask, is Hess.
Yep. That's me. They call me old the Mangler head. Molly Russell's wart over here. We are here to, as we always are, to delight and edify you with tales of mysterious monsters from mythology, film, literature, TV, as well as gaming, both from the box and from the console and beyond. We each bring a monster into the shop in a rotation. Today is actually going to be the kickoff of our change of format. We're going to shift over to a single topic format where I do an episode and then Gavin does an episode. So if any of you have been listening along to the double stuff episodes going, these are great, but damn, they're long. We agree. They're also a hell of a long chunk to edit. So if for any of you that are toward the shorter episode preference, good news, the episodes are going to be about half as long as they have been. And if we have occasion to switch back to a double stuff episode format for special additions, or maybe if the show does well later on, who knows, we may alter things, but expect them to be single topic episodes for the time being. This is one of the things where I don't know if you guys are going to notice it, but I was at the dentist like 3 or 4 hours ago, so not an insignificant piece of my face is numb. So you may get some weird lip action off of me. I may make some weird consonant sounds at some point. We'll see. Reminder, the images that we are going to reference throughout the show are available on our Instagram, Oops All Monsters, at Oops All Monsters on Instagram, and it would massively enhance your experience if you jump over there. And also, our link tree is there with links to all sorts of handy-dandy stuff like the YouTube and other cool things.
Get a feel for it.
Yes. So, let's see. Before we jump into villainous vocabulary, and Gavin, I did not prepare that, so if you have something in a list for that, take a look at that.
Yeah?
But
okay.
Before we get to it, so this will give you a chance to shuffle your papers if you had not prepared that.
Yeah.
I'm going to introduce a brief new entry that I'm going to call the Corrections Cave, in instances where we get something factually incorrect on the show. Now, I have to say that we did not do too bad. I had two people correct me on things, but they ended up only being like half corrections. So, where we covered the Leviathan topic, I mentioned that Meg Foster was in Cagney and Lacey. I had somebody correct me that Meg Foster did not star in Cagney and Lacey, and then I looked it up. That person was also wrong. Meg Foster did star for 6 episodes, but the network thought that she was too, quote-unquote, tough for the role and replaced her with who ended up starring in the show, Sharon Gless, for the rest of the...
about that.
Say what?
I could have swore we talked about that very issue, about her being replaced. But anyway, it might not have made it into the show.
So we were actually we were totally good on that, but so not important. I guess it's just me being a pedant. I don't know. It's not really a correction. But secondly, my friend of the show, Kevin from over at friend of the podcast, a podcast called Pixel Lit, like Pixel Literature, where they cover the novelization versions of video games. They just finished their first run of what's that Raccoon City, what's that goddamn game?
Resident Evil.
Resident Evil. They did the first Resident Evil book. They covered that. I think it was 4. They did 4 episodes or 5 episodes to cover that whole book.
Cool.
And show's very good. Check it out. It's Pixel Lit. Friend of the show, Kevin. He lived outside of Philadelphia in the region where the Hesses would have lived in Signs. And he said, we were half right in bitching about Shyamalan's the character's take on that. He said, well, the distance is actually pretty accurate in terms of how long it would take to get from the city to where they were. So Shyamalan is actually pretty good on the distances.
Yeah.
However, because he lived like in exactly the town where it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
However, the no way in hell those people would have said city folk under really like almost any circumstance. So we're basically half right. So I'm gonna call that a 3 out of 4 for us altogether.
I used to live where Jackson Pollock was born. And,
okay.
That's
it was real messy, I imagine.
Yeah, it was pretty messy. But nobody out there said city folk at all.
Yeah, I don't.
It was kind of countrified. There were a lot of they weren't Amish and they weren't Mennonites. They were something. They might have been Mennonites, but none of them said city folk.
Yeah, and Mennonites anyway are just Amish light. They're exactly the same thing. They're just like we want to be Amish, but not quite that Amish. They talk about pedantry. That's where you get the Mennonites from. So we're going to be Amish, but we don't want to do it. These 5 things are a little bit too Amish. I want to use an oak polished butt plug like the Lord intended. Sorry if I offended all of our Mennonite listeners.
Yeah.
In the barn listening on the ham radio. Gavin, did that give you enough time before we get into our show proper to pull something up for villainous vocabulary?
Oh yeah, did we do? I know we did armor class, but did we do hit points or HP or that entire?
No, we did THAC0 and we did. We talked about armor class in some fashion.
Well, would you like to do hit points to cover all of the bases?
Yeah, if I remember correctly, hit points is the amount of times that you have to neg a lady before she will consider you a proper sexual mate.
Incorrect. It's
Damn it!
It's in fact a baseball term. It isn't. But it hit points is the amount of life that a character has. It's usually represented by a red bar in video games, and in Dungeons and Dragons, it's represented by all kinds of messy tallies all over the place. Just numbers written. Some people write an entire number instead of tallies, which I don't know what's wrong with you people.
What's a lot of tallies to scrub off if you have a 10th level character? You might have 100 some hit points.
You got another sheet of paper. Anyway, hit points. What do you remember about hit points in the role-playing game?
Just any of them, or are you talking? I mean,
just any of it. Just any of it. D&D, I guess.
Okay. I really have no idea why, but for some reason I was actually tricked into clicking on a. My phone knows that I care about Dungeons and Dragons and games.
Yeah.
So it was like, let's talk about temporary hit points. So for some reason I was actually looking at an article about temporary hit points in D&D today. I genuinely don't know why.
Well, good. Talk about that, because I don't know much about temporary hit points. I've always ignored it.
It's not that important. It's just say that you've got a warlock's bad. You got like a cleric that's like 4th level, so you got like a mid-range amount of hit points. So maybe you have like, I don't know, 40 hit points, say, for a nice round number.
Yeah.
And something buffs you up and gives you like a potion or a magical effect gives you 12 temporary hit points on top of that. It means you go into combat with those 12 temporary hit points in addition to that, but if you lose them, they just kind of go away, and there are other mitigating circumstances where they don't benefit you in the long term is the main.
Yeah, okay. So if you get wounded with temporary hit points and then lose them, you don't suffer.
They're just gone.
Okay,
really.
Well, that's where I was.
Is the simplest? I mean,
yeah.
Like Matt Mercer or somebody's could wag their finger at me and be like, it's much more complicated than that. But nobody wants to hear that shit. There's podcasts specifically for that information. Yeah, it's just it is the mathematical amount of life that you have. There's a podcast that plays Cyberpunk Red. That's they're Canadian illustrators. That is called Dark Future Dice. This is just a totally random plug. Their company is called Rocket Adrift, but the game that they play is called Dark Future Dice. Is the podcast? It's a cyberpunk actual play podcast. I would strongly recommend it. There's just 3 of them, so it's nice and simple in a way. But one of the things that the guy got into cyberpunk because he said, one, he didn't have a lot of money, and cyberpunk was one book, as opposed to D&D, which is reams and reams and reams of books, and that's pretty much always been the case. Is D&D, one of the reasons it thrives into the 21st century while some other things don't, is they made a buttload of money selling you the 3.5 players and options handbooks and the paladin's handbook and the gnomes and halflings book and the
humanoid handbook.
Every possible
handbook,
damn book. Whereas Cyberpunk is traditionally been a one book game, but one thing that he talks about is he had 2 reasons that he listed in this one episode why he did Cyberpunk as opposed to, say, D&D, that like a lot of his friends got into. Is one, it was one book, so if you were poor, it was way easier to get into. And 2, that in D&D, the longer your character survives, the more hit points you get. It seems like you get older and more experienced, and you just keep getting tougher and tougher and beefier and harder to kill. Now, in terms of armor class, which we previously discussed, that kind of makes sense to me because armor class kind of reflects how difficult it is to hit you. So it could ostensibly represent your experience and your ability to move in a dynamic way in a battle environment. So armor class improving makes sense, but to paraphrase him, he said, well, as I keep getting older, I don't feel like I get any tougher from it. If anything, I've lost hit points. And I find that it is an area where D&D really does not reflect anything like reality, whereas, something like Shadowrun or Cyberpunk, where you have a completely fixed amount of alive or deadness, has a more authentic sense to me than accruing more and more hit points over time, so that a first level character in D&D might have 5 or 10 hit points, whereas a 12th level character might have 100 or 150 or something. That just doesn't seem like... I don't feel way harder to kill than when I was 16. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So
that is something that I'm a fan of also, because I grew up on Shadowrun. And Shadowrun had the condition monitor that decided if you were fucked up or not. Like, and it pretty much goes from, I'm okay and can function, to... I'm injured and can still function, to I am fucking dead. And can't do a damn thing.
And it never changes. It's always the same static chart.
There is a point where it's serious and you're just kind of mauled and laying there, but you don't stay there for very long. And not very many things have the damage that put you there. Like, it either kills you or it doesn't.
Yeah,
and,
right.
I'd say that's a pretty good representation of, like, firearms. It is like, it's either going to kill you or, like, zap you on your ass.
Yeah.
And considering armor and all of that crap, everything's going to take you out of combat. Like,
absolutely.
Pretty much. Which is why, in my system, in the game that I'm writing, we'll call it... I do the same thing. I have, like, a condition monitor. And the toughness of your character is represented by how hard it is to damage you, not by how much damage you can take.
Okay, cool. So there we go. Villainous vocabulary and the points of hits. And again, because I know people are bad at remembering things that are going in their ears. That podcast that I referenced is Dark Future Dice. I think they had a couple of seasons. I really recommend it. They're cool people. They're nice Canadians. Very, very particularly good writing from the game master of that cyberpunk game. So before we scare you off, let's transition into the monster. So
transition music.
So I am going to do today's topic, and interestingly, my being at the dentist and having my mouth drilled on is in a way going to thematically pull us into the topic. I'm sure, and nobody has any idea what I'm talking about. Of course, obviously the way that we dump these, the actual listeners see what the topic is in the title, so it's not a mystery. It's not a mystery to them.
It's still a mystery to me. Okay, well,
yeah. So it's only a mystery to you. That's also kind of a feature, is that you or I don't know, but the audience knows something that we don't know.
Is it Steve Martin from Little Shop of Horrors?
He's funny. Shooting puppies with a BB gun. He's so good in that. Little Shop of Horrors coming up a lot today for me for some reason, but no, it is not. It's not from Little Shop of Horrors. I told you when we were doing logistics chatting that I wanted to do the first topic because it was going to be something that was relevant in the schedule. The reason I want to do the first one is because there's a piece of media coming out soon that's going to tie into this monster. So dentistry is kind of connected. Let me pull over to a particular image or a particular. Now I got all my screens are in the wrong place because I had to move Discord. She had to go to the bathroom. Okay, let's see. Where did I put that screen? Gavin, are you familiar? Have you ever heard of a toy property called Big Jim?
Most likely, but I'm drawing a blank currently.
Okay. Well, let me. Here,
I'll show me Big Jim.
show me Big Jim. Did that show up in Discord?
Yes. Oh, Big Jim? What the hell is Big Jim?
Okay. All right. So that's an image from the original Big Jim toys. You can see from the marker that they're old Mattel properties. Do you notice anything about the quality of the illustration from these boxes?
Yeah, it looks like old Marvel.
The reason that it does is because those are actually Jack Kirby original illustrations on those. So we got three characters here. Big Jim himself. Big Jim's Warpath is the next character, who is anybody can guess what ethnicity that guy is, and then the Whip, which I'm not sure what his theme is. He appears to be a fairly brown gentleman with a mustache. Anyway, but there's really cool Jack Kirby box art for these action figures. It's a line of Mattel action figures from the late 70s. Early 90s that was kind of G.I. Joe adjacent, but leaned more in kind of an Adventure Man, James Bond kind of vibe. They were the 11-inch tall format. It's kind of similar to the Batman and Spider-Man toys that Marvel came out with around that era. They're very awkward, kind of like heroic boy Barbies. You know, Barbie's kind of tall and that like barely squishy hard plastic. Very similar, kind of awkward lock in place pop socket toys. Yeah. And I had no clue about Big Jim. It would have been popular when we were teeny babies. But Big Jim had a ton of different characters. I mean, nothing to the extent of like G.I. Joe or something. They had, maybe a dozen, 2 dozen total characters. There's basically Big Jim, who's just like generic guy. He's like, I'm the head of the adventure, and then a bunch of people that were either from a different theme or an ethnicity plus a gimmick or
there's
something.
A bad guy named Zorak.
Yeah, weirdly enough, there's a bad guy named Zorak. Same spelling even on that one. And let's see, does my screen follow me? Okay, I want to...
Dr. Steele.
So on my screen share, I'm pulling up the particulars.
Torpedo Fist.
I'm pulling up a particular guy.
Iron Jaw.
Yeah, I'm pulling up this bad guy that had either a limited run or was only available in a specific situation. What do you notice about this guy, Iron Jaw? Can you describe what you're looking at here?
Yeah, he's got parts from other Mattel toys.
Well, right. Okay, so he's released in 1981, this guy, Iron Jaw. And it's actually, I heard conflicting reports of whether he was ever actually officially released or whether he was just designed and almost went to market and then didn't, or maybe he was only available in Mexico or in Italy. I'm not sure. But are there any big Jim heads out there you can confirm if you had an Iron Jaw? So we're looking at a guy here. He's got a real Bond villain vibe, right?
Yeah.
He's wearing kind of a generic, almost like Frankenstein's monster, like black kind of suit coat, but the suit coat is missing the right sleeve because instead of his right arm is like a mechano robot, like really bare bones metal arm with a hook on the end. And then prominently displayed is a series of accessories that he apparently is pulling out of a suitcase. How would you list these accessories? What has he got in there?
You've got a chopping khopesh, a mattock head, a regular axe, a hook, and a salad tosser.
Yeah, you got some weird generic, kind of like blades and things.
There's a thing to chop, a thing to pick, a thing to chop differently, a thing to claw, a thing to hook.
Okay, and he's got almost like a mean Lex Luthor head. In this image, his skin's kind of like almost a Halloween. Like
his
orange.
body looks like it is, in fact, a Frankenstein toy.
Yeah, he's got big clunky boots, but totally bald Professor X dome, but like real angry gaze and big black bushy eyebrows that are kind of fixed in a fuck you face. And
he's
quite
mad. Notably,
are there any characters from pop culture that that this guy's special jaw appendage reminds you of?
Those are parts from Trapjaw, from He-Man.
What a clear eye for. He has exactly, and I mean exactly, the same jaw construction and quality of our subject today, Trapjaw from Masters of the Universe, aka He-Man. Whose at time of recording, big new Splash series directed and created by Kevin Smith will be out at time of recording tomorrow, but by time of publishing it will be yesterday or a couple of days hence. So we will be publishing this within very close to the strike zone of when that comes out. So Big Jim is actually the predecessor or rather, Iron Jaw is the Italian limited released Big Jim feature that basically got used in such a limited capacity that Mattel said, we can count that as recyclable material and use it again when we have another toy line come up. And of course, Mattel's real thing is they make toys, and during this era they made a lot of what would have been classified at that time as quote-unquote boys' toys. And the following year, they pushed out their original line of Masters of the Universe, a.k.a. the man of He-Man toys. And one of the primary villains below Skeletor, in addition to Beastman, was the ever-popular Trap-a-Jaw. His jaw is a trap. And you can see very clearly the DNA of Trap-Jaw in this guy, Iron Jaw. It is so clearly a ripoff. But they're ripping themselves off, so there's no harm
Mattel's
there
allowed to do
specifically.
that.
You made something, and also honestly, Iron Jaw looks pretty cool, man. He kind of looks like a James Bond villain that never kind of like made it to market. Yeah. And it's said that Iron Jaw was inspired by Jaws from the 007 movies, obviously, as portrayed by a fantastic Richard Kiel in the Spy Who Loved Me 1977, who had big, terrifying steel jaws that could rip through anything. And then that gave them the idea for the Big Jim character Iron Jaw, which will be featured on the Instagram imagery. Really take a look at it, because it is so clearly the DNA for Trap Jaw. So now that the cat is out of the bag, I can get off of Big Jim.
Yeah,
here.
Well, real quick about Big Jim. I read something about him, and I was wondering why he was specifically referenced as an Italian villain. But
well, he's not Italian. I think what it does is
his limited toy run was
the toy
Italy.
Only came out in a limited run in Italy.
Yeah, it was like, why are you calling him an Italian spy?
Yeah, no, not quite what that is there.
Yeah, like, look out, an Italian spy.
It's a me! Swoosh!
Before we start reading factual things about Trapjaw, what do you know or think about Trapjaw? God, my mouth, ironically, is not going to want to say that name this whole episode. So what comes just like freeform off the dome from you about Trapjaw again? If you don't,
Trapjaw is weak for me, man. I do not remember anything, and I don't remember ever having any interest in him. Like, I always had him. Everybody had him. So before I forget, for anybody that's not up on the cool 1982 toy stuff, is Masters of the Universe as it officially is, but by all the kids was just called He-Man, who was your famed main character was a blonde barbarian whose toy was designed first, and then the Mattel company said, well, let's make a whole thing about this. And essentially the TV show was a 30-minute, or really a 20-minute commercial for the show to sell all the toys. And this was, although it's very cynical, it was kind of like the origin of this strategy. Is we got a product, and now let's build up a whole comic line and cartoon show around it to sell the toy. So they had a toy, they came up with a couple of different versions of it that are like some of them are super ridiculous, the original versions of the toy before they got there. There's one that's got like a robot head instead of or like a bullet the
head.
Protagonist designs, prototype designs for He-Man made no sense. There was a guy with a gun head that was just like, what the hell are you going to do with that? What's that story? Like, I have a gun head.
Yeah, I have the sex gun. It would have been. By the power of 3030. It was a massive cultural force in the early and mid 80s, at least in the United States and other countries where it was published. Specifically Latin America, where you just slap a different name on things in Spanish, and blam, you got a new toy. And massive cultural relevance. Every little boy, specifically, that I knew at this time was was He-Man crazy.
Yeah, I even had a bunch. I wasn't into He-Man really, but I had all of them.
There are upsides and downsides to the fact that we're recording this right before that show comes out, so there might be huge things that we don't know yet that are going to be obvious as soon as that show comes out. So I don't even know if Trapjaw's going to be in this first episode. in the pilot for this new show. Maybe he's gonna turn into a totally different character in this first episode, and I don't know. But we're being bold and coming out before the gunfires and talking about Trapjaw here for a little bit. So anyway, it's basically a Conan rip-off world that takes place in this bizarre reality called Eternia that's got this quasi-feudal world that somehow has rocket ships and laser guns, but also everybody's still fighting with swords and also magic. It's a little kitchen
completely
sinky.
Understand the swords and stuff when magic is involved. Like that's a big game changer. Like, go ahead and have lasers, but there's magic. Like.
Yeah, I mean, if you put any more than 2 minutes of like logical thought into the Masters of the Universe world, it really quickly unravels like Rivers Cuomo's sweater. It is totally gonzo nonsense, but that's one of the great things about it. You know, you've got this shaved blonde Schwarzenegger prototype running around smacking people with a sword and flying around on like little
he's
like personal rocket jets.
This steward of an entire kingdom, like this. He's basically a knight, but his appearance and pretty much overall attitude is a barbarian.
Yeah, and there are different shades of that in the different versions of the things that you consume. But yeah, obviously somebody was like, you know what's popular? Conan. Let's make a little Conan guy that'll be just different enough from Conan that we won't get sued. And give him a sword and a big axe and a shield and have him whack bad guys in the face. Because he can't chop them up because this is being marketed to 9-year-olds and 7-year-olds and 5-year-olds. So instead he's going to take big monsters and throw them into lakes and into ravines and smack them up beside the head with the sword. He uses the sword a lot, but he just whacks you. Until they come up with, like, bad guys that are robots, then you can do anything you want to a robot. That's one of the great things about robots.
I think, Sebastian. Therefore I am.
Kill the shit out of all the robots you want.
So many dead robots from 80s cartoons. Like, that's why they invented the BAT, the Battle Android Trooper for G.I. Joe. Because it's like, these G.I. Joes are shooting constantly and never killing anybody. It's like, how about an android?
These violent delights have violent ends.
Yeah, they keep blowing up the special like attack tanks that they're in, but then they have to all of the 7 guys that are in the tank leap out of it instantly, and it explodes. So He-Man's massively popular, and there's a binary in the He-Man landscape of heroes versus villains. It's not your subtle Star Trek reality. It's your clear, delineated Star Wars reality where there's goodies and there's baddies. And when you're a little kid, there's no confusion because you look on the back of the little mini comics that came inside of the character when you bought it.
A wonderful thing.
The mini comic was packed inside of it.
Beautiful thing that I think should come back is a miniature comic book explaining what this character is. Yeah, Aliens did that
absolutely.
too.
I'm a big fan of the mini comics.
And that's all you need, really. The card on the back of it is cool. That's fine. That'll suffice. But a comic book is gonna, make me, at least, or children who were like me, buy the damn action figure and seek it out specifically above all other action figures to buy because it comes with a little story.
It's already dragging you into the world of like, this guy's like this girl's like that. She gets, she has this relationship to this character. She behaves this way. It fills out a story. It pulls you into your own imaginarium, so to speak, like you said, it pulls the ripcord and gets you moving on imagining that character in a real space, as opposed to just having the toy and you're like, figure it out. Because also, for me, the mini comics, because the art and the design and the stories of the mini comics really were a separate reality from the Filmation show, because the Filmation show, because it had to be on TV, first of all, it was extremely simplified, and second of all, it was massively dumbed down. And the art was incredibly stark and basic by comparison, because a lot of people don't know this, but the show came out on a daily basis. It had 2 seasons of 65 episodes, but they pumped it out in this incredible sausage factory fashion where it was like bam, 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 bam. It was kind of the evolution of like the 1960s Spider-Man cartoon, which everybody would know from the weird Spider-Man memes of him like pointing at himself and arguing. Well, the reason that those memes exist from that Spider-Man show is because there were these stock cells of basically Spider-Man only did like 9 things, right? Because every time he did something different, you'd have to animate a whole different package of cells. So similarly, He-Man and Skeletor and Evelyn and everybody, they only did like 7 things each, right? And preferably, they all looked exactly the same, so a lot of the characters were just a recolor or a reskin of another character with a different head on them. And so, you've always got He-Man running at the camera, and then the quote-unquote camera is between his legs, or like Tila jumps in front of quote-unquote camera, and then like her ass comes into frame, and then she like runs away. You know what I mean? There's these stock things that everybody does every episode because it prevents you from having to actually create any new cells for that character.
Bad guys were always kind of like taken aback and shocked at something, or being thrown into a lake. Like, being thrown into a lake was a big thing.
Yeah, everybody was always getting thrown into lakes. It was like He-Man solved most problems by throwing some terrifying monster into a lake. A lot of conveniently placed lakes in that show. But the show was very like, kind of almost, I would say, Hanna-Barbera-ish in how goofy and over the top it was. And it's very kiddie, like,
this isn't violence.
Or Orko, the comic relief, got so much more play in the show than anybody would have ever given him in their own imaginations, because they needed a comic foil, and Cringer the cat, who was Battle Cat, also was like, "Oh, He-Man, let's just take a nap." It was a lot. That show was a lot more goofy, whereas opposed to the reality of the mini comics,
it was pretty brutal.
Often like very stark and violent, and in the origin of the mini comics, like Prince Adam, the alter ego of He-Man, didn't even exist. There was just because a lot of those mini comics got made before anybody had any idea about anything else. They just looked at the toy and handed them over to the people to make it and said, I don't know, take this and like make something cool out of it. And they did. The quality of some of the original mini comics is fantastic. The illustration and the very limited narrative that you can put into like the 8 pages of comic that you've got there. And that's one of the things I want to get across. But we skipped over an important point, which is that the back of those mini comics, they had to, don't forget to buy all of these toys, and then each one of them would show you like the 10 toys, and it'd be like encourage you to circle them to make sure you had all of them. And all of the good guys were heroic blah blah blah, and all the bad guys were evil blah blah blah. So for instance, the back of this one, let me change, there you go. For instance, this is like a perfect one, an original image of, we got Manny faces, we got He-Man himself, we got Zor, which is like an accessory like bird with like a robot suit on, Ram Man, Trapjaw, and Triclops. And it really disambiguates the goodies and the baddies by telling you Manny Faces is a heroic human robot monster, which is like one of my favorite
heroic
phrases
human
in all of human English.
Robot monster. He-Man is the most powerful man in the universe. Okay, great. Zor is the fighting falcon. Cool. And then it's
good guy, by the way. Ram Man is the heroic human battering ram, who was actually my first toy from He-Man. It's like I got Ram Man first. And then Trapjaw is described as evil and armed for combat. Which is a little pun there, because the joke is his arm, like the Big Jim toy, is it's a robot arm, and then past the joint, basically where your forearm would be, you can switch out his different accessories. He's got a laser gun, or a hook, or a claw, and and all of those accessories, you can like hang them on his belt. He also was like a lot more complicated than the other toys in various ways because he had different points of articulation. His jaw is like scary mechanical, like jack-o'-lantern jaw, like moved on a hinge. The accessory arm. His belt was like a separate belt that you could take off, and he had this weird feature on the top of his head. Do you remember that? How would you describe that?
Because I chewed on it.
So there's a little. He's got a stripe that goes down. He's wearing kind of like a badass motorcycle helmet kind of dealy, and at the top of it is a little loop where it was featured greatly in the commercials for the TV commercials for the toys, where you could put him on a string and like zip line him on his head. Which, would no real person would ever do because, like, you just
tear your head off.
Rip your head off. But for a toy, it's kind of badass because he's got a laser gun for an arm. He's ziplining into combat. It's hella kinetic. It's fun. It's great. It's great for a toy. It's good fun. So you knew who was a good guy or a bad guy if it was not obvious for how scary they were. A lot of the bad guys had like webbed feet for some reason. And Triclops was top 2 or 3 of the bad guys. He is apparently number 1 in all popularity amongst the baddies, except for, of course, Skeletor, who's the main baddie. Who's always
the best swordsman in the universe. And I know a lot about Triclops.
Yes.
He's from another dimension. Skeletor summoned him and enslaved him. And he doesn't want to fight anymore because he is the best swordsman, and he's, like, regretting being a combatant. And, like, he doesn't want to fight, but Skeletor makes him fight with evil magic, and he can see everywhere.
Triclops officially is evil and sees everything. And this theme of Skeletor enslaving reluctant baddies to work for him, kind of as indentured servants. It's used a lot because. So, do you remember the original mini-comic that explained Trapjaw? It was called The Menace of Trapjaw.
No, I only really remember Triclops.
So, The Menace of Trapjaw, and you'll notice a couple things immediately about this cover is, for instance, Trapjaw does not look right. For one, he's green, not blue, whereas he's canonically blue. But in his introduction, he's kind of this like glow-in-the-dark, day-glow green color. Also, in his original mini-comic, he's an interdimensional bounty hunter that like Skeletor is going to another dimension for some other unrelated business, and then accidentally lets this like psychopath who's running from the authorities of this other dimension through into their reality. So he's not even from their reality. And then the dimensional door somehow puts Trapjaw into Castle Grayskull, where he is imbued with Castle Grayskull's incredible magics. And he starts totally running amok, and he's going to kill Skeletor and kill He-Man. They're like, oh no, by we must combine our powers. And they take their 2 symmetrical swords and combine them to create the Uber Sword of Power to smash the connection that Trapjaw has with Castle Grayskull, and then knock him out. And then Skeletor evilly picks Trapjaw up and then opens a dimension door and says, like, I will take him away and enslave him as one of my minions, or some such mishigas. And so that's how Trapjaw ends up being Skeletor's minion, at least early on. And then that gets retconned way later when there's been all of these, maybe half a dozen reiterations of toys and cartoon shows and yada, yada, yada. And then so in the 2000s, there were comic book series. Specifically, there was the Masters of the Universe Icons of Evil #1 comic book in 2003. which did a backstory explaining a new origin of Trapjaw, where he's a guy named Cronus, and both he and Keldor, they're from the same race. They're Gar, Gar. Keldor and Cronus are both Gar. They're blue-skinned people from another reality that get dropped into Eternia in a way that you would not expect. But anyway, they are actually on the same side in Eternia, trying to defeat He-Man or Hero, or the people, the prototype He-Man, like the pre-He-Man character. And they get... Are you seeing the graphic novel thing that I have up? This Cronus character, he works for and with Skeletor for a long time. And then he gets ambitions. He says, I should be in charge, Skeletor. And Skeletor banishes him out into the wastelands of old, scary Eternia that's covered in roving, like, nightmare tribes of, like, maniac people. And then Cronus takes over a bunch of these tribes and becomes, like, a huge warlord and comes back to take everything over from Skeletor. And Skeletor gets into a one-on-one fight with him. And
messes him up.
It gets, like, really down to the wire. And then Skeletor, like, blasts his face, like, off with his staff of havoc, is what that staff is officially called, with, like, the ram's horns. And it, like, takes everything, it's the kind of Red Skull style, like, nukes his face, which is why his face is now green, rips his jaw off, which is, like, super gnarls Barkley, and also, obliterates his right arm. So it gives you this origin for him being all jacked up and wounded. And then after this, Skeletor says, like, take him away and fix him up. And I've heard it reported different ways, that either Triclops goes and builds all of the machinery to fix him, or a different character does. So somebody can correct me about that, who it is. But in this reality, Triclops, in addition to being the greatest fighter, is, like, also a massive, like, mechanical genius and inventor. And so he comes back a few pages later, and he's got the gnarly jaw and the super scary, like, mechanical claw arm, and he says, "No, I am not Kronos. Now I will be known as Trapjaw." And he's, all graphic novel scary. And ta-da, there you go. So you have these two different origins. You have the one from the mini comics, and then you have the one from the 2003 Icons of Evil graphic novel. Whichever you want to do with, whatever you want to do with that, that's fine. It's your own personal Trapjaw related beliefs. I'm not here to judge. Personally, I really like the art of the original mini comics, and I also love. Basically, if there is a discrepancy in the version that they do in the way that a character looks in the mini-comic, I like the mini-comics better in every single case. I think He-Man looks cooler. I think Teela looks cooler with, like, the long hair and the white bikini. I think that this version of Trapjaw, who would later get repackaged as quote-unquote a different character called Ironjaw, who is not coincidentally the same name as the character from Big Jim. So Mattel has done this thing where if they have this kind of discrepancy between different pieces of media, aka the original mini-comic and all of the subsequent versions of Trapjaw, etc., they will, and for instance, there was a character, Zodak. Do you remember which one Zodak is? He's the guy with, like, the weird bug helmet with the black eyes, who's kind of like a cosmic enforcer.
I remember Zodak.
You remember Zodak? And he was a weird combo because he kind of actually wasn't a good guy or a bad guy. He was kind of like a space paladin enforcing the balance of reality itself. Well, at different points. So in different media, Zodak was a little darker skinned and Zodac, and originally he was a little lighter skinned and was Zodak. And so what Mattel always does is like, well, our job is just to sell gobs of plastic to people, and now that all these people are like 40 and have a bunch of money, well, we're just going to say they're two different characters entirely. And one of them is kind of like a black dude, and they're from a race of these people that are from a different reality altogether. that do this kind of business, and one of them Zodak with a C, one of them Zodak for a K, and now they're two different characters, and we're going to give you one that's going to be worth $400 that you get from some Comic-Con somewhere, right? Well, they did the same thing with Trapjaw, where they said, okay, well, it wasn't that we just kind of like shuffled all this out the door, you know, hastily and didn't have anybody come up with a plan or what means what. It's actually that these are two different characters, and maybe, you know, there are a lot of different Trapjaws, and they're kind of like 007s. So this guy Trapjaw, he's a different guy than the guy that Ironjaw is, right? So the psychotic interdimensional bounty hunter, it's a totally different dude. He's got green skin, and he wants to kill everybody, and his name's Ironjaw. Cool. So you'll see different versions. I'm actually for sure ordering the Funko Pop of the Ironjaw version, the mini comics version, because this show is gonna kill my bank. I'm not a big like digging up toys for my childhood properties and buying them person. I have my own issues with hoarding toys, so I do it very very slowly. I get like two toys a year. I'm not one of our friends who's got like 35 of them in a big display case. Or 3,500 of them even. So anyway, Trapjaw is a bunch of different things. His origin it could be this, could be that. Maybe he's an interdimensional bounty hunter, but he's always kind of a second or third under the big scary baddie Skeletor. And there are certain, for whatever reason, the creators of the various versions of Masters of the Universe say that Trapjaw is by far the most popular second-string character. After He-Man and Skeletor, Trapjaw is just super fun, and I think there's a few reasons for that. One of them being, like I mentioned, the toy has an intense amount of playability in comparison to the other toys. A lot of the Masters of the Universe toys would have certain like play aspects built into them. You'd have a He-Man that like punches with like caps built into his back, so it like pops. You'd have like a Skeletor version with a Snake Blaster Skeletor with a a snake on his a dragon on his back, and it would spit water out of it. You know, you've got all sorts of these various different iterations of like fancy versions of Kung Fu grip, right? So, but Trapjaw was one of the first ones that had a bunch of that shit built into him. You had the grappling hook thing. You had the different versions of the arm. You had the jaw that moved and implied this really, like, you know, you could use it to make him talk. You could have him bite people. You just had a ton more playability, is the term that they use, and interactivity built into the object of the toy than any of the other original toys. So the playability is there. And the playability also, what the playability does is it implies character, and it implies interactivity, and that this guy's dynamic. He does interesting things. He's also scary. He's just scarier than everybody else. You know, this is somebody he's missing body parts. Why is he green and blue? He kind of looks like a zombie. He kind of looks like Frankenstein's monster. You know, it's got a punch to it that I think is very compelling, and it's very strong as a villain, because obviously there's something going on there that makes him dark or violent or psychotic or whatever it is. What's on your mind there?
Yeah, Trapjaw, I remember playing with him, just that's all I did. Like, I guess that he put me into some type of stunned imagination quagmire because there was so much to do with him. Because, like I said, I don't really remember any imagination epic that I featured him in. Like other characters, but I do remember just sitting there and taking his arm off, putting it back on, taking parts of his arm off and putting them back on, taking his jaw off and putting it back on, chewing on his head, and like all kinds of stuff. I definitely had a good time with Trapjaw. I'm not saying I hated the toy. I just didn't really. I don't really remember any story things. I was too busy playing with him.
Well, it was the 80s. All of us had a good time with Trapjaw. I don't know what that would be a euphemism for.
Well,
a good time with Trapjaw. I don't know what that would imply.
A good time with Triclops.
I don't know what pulls.
Having a
what
hard
pulls out of that, though.
experience
Good
with a
time,
heroic human robot monster in 1986.
Yeah.
Behind
Yeah.
behind Maris's beer store.
Now that we've escaped our first menace, dear readers, we invite you into the apothecary, that den of rare and obscure balms, salves, powders, and oils derived from the exotic serpents, clattering critters, and acrid arachnids, where we do our most shadowy machinations. Our friend Jeremy keeps dying in the dark, putrid dungeons, one player character after the next, like moths to the flame, whether it's crushed by a cyclops, didn't get his mage armor up in time, or was incinerated by his own divine light. Jeremy finds a way for his piss wizard to perish in the first round of combat. So here we are to ask you to open your coin purses, help pitch in just a bit to defray the massive cost of all these dang healing potions we need to keep Jeremy crawling through the dungeons. If you want to support the show on an ongoing basis, you can check us out at patreon.com/oopsallmonsters. That's oops with 2 O's. Or you can make a one-time contribution to the Apothecary's Health Potions for Jeremy Fund, which at most levels will get you a shout-out at the top of the show, if you're into that. If you're not, we can give you a sweet and scary pseudonym to keep your dark business under wraps. So you can toss a coin to us at paypal.me/oopsallmonsters. Again, that's paypal.me/oopsallmonsters, and in every case, oops is with 2 O's and no punctuation, just like Tiamat intended.
Hi there. My name is Douglas Rassensberger, and I'm the CEO and founder of Douglas's Cutlasses. Have you ever found yourself in this situation? You've just gotten home from a long day of spur and growth at your small but thriving business. You're just trying to slice some quality deli meats and cheeses for a relaxing snack, and suddenly there's a mysterious intruder rummaging through your garbage outside. What's a domestic disruptor to do when you get in a pickle like this? Pull out your handy-dandy, short-handled, half-guarded naval sword, that's what. Here at Douglas's Cutlasses, we've got every possible cutlass for every conceivable scenario. Are you an aspiring or current CEO of a Fortune 500 company? I've got a cutlass for that. A middle school teacher struggling to maintain discipline in the classroom? I've got a cutlass for that. Looking to add a little flair to drab dinner parties? I've got a cutlass for that. Some people say to me, but Douglas, I'm not a pirate, privateer, or sailor. What do I need with a battle-quality 27-inch half-guard naval sword? I'm so glad you asked. Here at Douglas's Cutlasses, our research shows that the vast majority of conflicts, both business and personal, can be positively affected by the introduction of a modest, well-crafted naval sword. So let's get swashbuckling. No matter what's your problem, an easy-to-wield, iron-forged cutlass is probably the solution. So once again, I'm Douglas Raffensberger of Douglas's Cutlasses. Come get stabby with me. Please go to paypal.me/oopsallmonsters and make a payment there. And that's oops with 2 O's. Again, that link is paypal.me/oopsallmonsters.
Trapjaw, I do remember this. He had eyes. A lot of the villains that scared me, or not really scared, but made me uneasy, didn't have eyes. Like, for example, also, the Ninja Turtles didn't have eyes, and I hated them. I hated the Ninja Turtles because they didn't have eyes. And whenever I first got them, when I first got the Ninja Turtles, it was Christmas, and I had gotten all of the Ghostbusters and all of the Ninja Turtles, and I didn't know what they were yet, at all. The cartoon hadn't replaced Ghostbusters yet, and when the cartoon did replace Ghostbusters, I made the Ninja Turtles ghosts, and they had to be busted all the time, because how dare this weird eyeless screwy thing take over Ghostbusters time slot. I hated that so much. But eventually, of course, I fell into the Ninja Turtles hole, and I loved them, and I had to have all of it, even the trash can-headed idiot toys that didn't make any sense.
A lot of the ghost. There were some really hilarious ghost toys from there, but I was totally the reverse with the Ninja Turtles. I don't know why the blank eyes worked for me, and then later on when they would do like Cowabunga He-Man or Cowabunga like cool Hawaiian shirt versions that did have little black dots in their eyes, they unnerved me. I can't do them if they have little eyes in their eyes. I can only do it when they've got the weird like ghost shape. For some reason I don't know why it works for me. It's like Betty Boop kind of. You're like, why is that the way that looks? Because it's nightmarish.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's kind of like the little Fallout guy, the little blonde dude. What's his name? Small Fallout Jim.
Vault
Foreskin.
Boy. Oh my God, it's Vault Boy.
Well, it was too obvious.
Jeez.
Are you sure his name isn't Thunder Punch?
Thunder Punch. His name is Ballington Carbarker. His name is Burlington Coat Factory.
His name is Buzzsaw Hordak.
His name is Jarmbelson Carnhan Winbinniwithwa, and he's Welsh.
It's okay.
I've been doing that a lot lately.
Hashtag Welsh nonsense.
Yeah,
Fake
Ben
Welsh
Winnie with way,
fake
Ben
Welsh nonsense.
Holywangwe, when Gully Gwadwath.
Real quick, I'm going to see how quickly I can crank through the names of all of the original Masters of the Universe.
Holy crap! Here we go.
You want to see how fast I can do it? Okay. Battle Armor He-Man, Battle Armor Skeletor, Beastman, Blast Attack, Buzz Off, Buzzsaw Hordak, Clamp Champ, Clawful, Dragon Blaster Skeletor, Dragstore, Evelyn, Extendar, Faker, Fistor, Flying Fists He-Man, Grizzlor Dark Brown, Grizzlor Light Brown, He-Man the Wonder Bread Mail Away exclusive, Hordak, Horde Trooper, Hurricane Hordak, Jitsu, King Hiss, King Randor, Cobra Khan, Leech, Man-at-Arms, Manny-Faces, Mantenna, Mechanic, Merman, Modulok, Mosquito, Mossman, Multibot, Ninjor, Orko, Prince Adam, Ramman, Ratlore, Rio Blast, Roboto, Rockon, Rotar, Scareglow, Skeletor, Snakeface, Stout Spout, Sorceress, Spikor, Squeeze, Stinkor, Stondar, Stratos Blue, Stratos Red, Cyclone, Tila, Terrorclaw Skeletor, Thunder Punch He-Man, Trapjaw, Triclops, Tongue Lasher, Twistoid, Too Bad, Webstore, Whiplash, Zodak. Somebody turned that into a trap rap, why don't you? And that's not including the fucking weird-ass dinosaurs and dino egg bullshit.
And the vehicles.
And all the fucking, not including Blade, Gwildor, Sorod, the Slime Pit, Snake Mountain. Man, speaking of the Slime Pit, first of all, you remember the Slime Pit? It was like a play. Oh, yeah. So it was a play set. Well, it's hard to not remember it. It was like a play set that was like a dinosaur, like skull, and then a dinosaur big like stone hand. They would like clamp a character in place. And I still have my like little kid T-shirt featuring like Stratos trapped in there. Not Stratos, it was Cyclone, I think, or Roboto. I can't remember. And He-Man had to save him from the slime pit. And you would like pour this like Ghostbusters slime gook into it, and then it would like ooze down all over the guy and get him. I know that had to be some middle-aged guy's sexual fetish. It was like, I'm going to turn this into a children's toy. It was like just pouring goop on the good guys. Like, that's a weird thing to come up with, bro. I don't know. It's like, why'd your mind go there? Also, it like got that gook goop all over your toy, and it didn't come off. Like it turned into this flaky, crappy slime stuff.
The Ghostbusters house. I was told constantly, over and over again, it's too expensive. Can't buy you that. It's too expensive. It wasn't too expensive. It came with slime. And
slime was like the main thing.
My mother did not want slime all over the carpet, so that's why.
Yeah, well, I could tell you for a fact, slime did get all over our carpets.
I never got anything with slime.
I was big into sliming everything. I slimed
always
the shit
too
out of
expensive.
everybody. I mean, it like. No, I mean, you remember I had way too many of that style of toys, and I had a ton of those real Ghostbusters, and that slime got everywhere it should not have gone.
Yeah, it did.
And it really did fuck up your carpet. So it turned into weird, like, dead, like murder, like vomit bile, like death scenes. Yeah, it looked like a mouse had basically turned into like acid bile, like all sorts of different places.
It rotted too, like it had some kind of weird plastic rot, like.
Oh yeah, supernatural. Yeah, super
like
great.
A completely synthesized, like necrobiotic cycle that that is all synthetic.
Okay, so some other things about Trapjaw that I want to bring up.
Let me explain. No, there is too much. Let me sum up.
Tell me if my screen
I see these guys.
populates here, and you can see this. You can see this.
Yeah,
see
there's
this
a
dude,
bunch of
this
cosplaying
dude.
Trapjaws. That guy looks great. Incredible Trapjaw.
That guy crushes. Yeah, he's Bustamante. Alexi, I believe this guy's named Alexi Bustamante is the guy that does this really iconic version. That's it's kind of like a zombified take on it. It's
pretty
very
damn good.
I mean, it's a ton of work. But one of the reasons that I think that the Trapjaw that is interesting, and I'm curious if aspects of this, either by accident or by good writing or whatever, are maybe going to come up in either the Kevin Smith series that's coming out right now or something else, is I think, and of course this is a total accident, but I think that Trapjaw, in a way, but by being, and what he is he's a cyborg, right? Like, he doesn't have AI in him or anything, but you don't have to have, you don't have to have a computer brain to be a cyborg. A cyborg is someone who has robotic elements integrated into their biological person.
Yeah,
right?
he's augmented in a way that is robotic more than cybernetic. I would call it robotic.
For sure. He's kind of like, he's kind of a low-tech cyborg or like a steampunk
cybernetic
cyborg.
is different. Cybernetic is like integrated into your being. Robotic, half robot is what this is. Like just a system of hydraulics and everything literally strapped onto you.
Right.
That you control with some type of means. Like,
right.
Yeah.
So, whether he's a cyborg or a proto-cyborg or whatever it is.
It's still a cyborg, I think.
Yeah, it's just he's in one corner of the cyborg chart, we'll say.
Yeah.
But by being a very early cyborg, he's somebody who has been wounded and reorganized via technology. And in a way, he's actually become a lot more relevant in the 21st century, where we are on a path to all becoming cyborgs.
I hope so.
And of course, a lot of granola people are gonna be resisting that. A lot of us are gonna say, "Oh, not me," but that it's happening more and more. Whether your granduncle has a pacemaker, or you're an Afghanistan veteran who has an arm or a leg replacement or anything. Technology is being used to replace important parts of our bodies, whether they're internal organs or extremities or joints or what have you. Or if you have a technology that lives inside of you and does some kind of work for an organ or for your brain. We're all becoming more cyborgy, more robotic, more like Trapjaw, whether we like it or not. And go ahead.
Oh, okay. Anybody, say, particular billionaire who funds his own stupid projects, if they're listening, I will willingly run the prototype for Data Jacks. Go ahead.
So you're saying you're volunteering to have an in-out port into your skull or neck that will interface with
an incredibly invasive surgery on my brain and skull to plug me into a computer. If you think that you have that solved and you need somebody to test it on, I'll do it.
Okay, you heard it here first. We broke news here on Oops All Monsters. Gavin is a willing Data Jack guinea pig. Get on it, trillionaires.
I'm your huckleberry.
Yeah.
Cool. So although it may feel like a stretch for this silly piece of plastic based off of a James Bond villain turned into a toy to sell to Rugrats in 1985, I think in a way that Master of the Universe did, particularly Masters of the Universe, really normalized having appendages replaced by tools. Now, let me give you examples, because it's not just Trapjaw. You got Trapjaw with his utilitool arm, which is his right arm, by the way. So, assumably, it's probably his dominant arm.
Yeah.
But additionally, and it's not a tiny list here, but these characters, to some extent, also have like alternative limbs in the Masters of the Universe world, and it's not including She-Ra. I just went through He-Man. You've got Fisto, who, by the way, is named Fisto, so we'll maybe get to that later. Spikor, who has kind of like a weird punchy trident thing for a hand.
Yeah.
Jitsu, who is the evil Asian version of Fisto, which...
Yeah, he's kind of like a Fisto, but with a chop instead of a punch.
But evil and Asian. Coincidence?
Is he evil?
Yeah, he's the evil Fisto.
Oh, I thought he was a good guy. Okay.
No, nah. Jitsu, not a great look. Multibot, but Multibot is in the kind of more in the category of like the total cyborg characters, so it's a little bit of a stretch. Roboto, in addition to being totally robotic, except with like maybe a human heart ? He also had an interchangeable appendage that was kind of an adaptation out of the Trapjaw milieu, and then obviously Trapjaw. And then there's a couple more that are a little bit more of a stretch. Clamp Champ, notably the only original black He-Man. It was not an appendage replacement, but actually kind of like a tool that went over his whole arm. Clawful, and that's less of a replacement. Rather, he's like a weird crab mutant guy where one of his hands is a giant crab claw and the other one's a regular crab claw. And then you could maybe say that Too Bad maybe has like a metal hand, or maybe it's just a silver gauntlet. But anyway, there's at least...
Well, what about Manny Faces? Is a robot inside of there. Out of the three identities that poor man has to struggle with, which one is the dominant one of them is a robot.
I know who I am. I'm a dude playing a dude disguised as another dude.
So, if you break up in the category to being robotic people, then it's a whole different ballgame, because MOTU is chock-a-block full of robot people. Not just Roboto, is Extendar like a robot dude, because otherwise how is he moving that? Mechanic is a part robot guy. Actually, I forgot to put Mechanic in there because his neck is... when the neck extends, it's a robot-style piece, right?
He's got a cybernetic neck.
Yeah, so you got to add
for
Mechanic
trench
in there.
warfare.
Yes. For getting killed by World War I snipers that the Kaiser has ordered against him. The sniper's dream, they call him. So you got Mechanic. You got easily 7 to 10 characters here that represent a category of artificial limb replacement, and it seems like kind of a weird walk, or maybe a strange left turn, but in a way, like there's kind of a real thing here where people our age, not an insignificant amount of them, would have gone to Iraq and Afghanistan when they were, 20, 22?
Yeah.
And the post 9/11 wars have a vastly large, disproportionate amount of limb loss wounds that are survived, meaning people that come back that have not been KIA'd, that survive, but are missing an arm, missing a hand, missing a leg, missing, pieces of a face, missing important organ functions or whatever, that are coming back and getting fitted with something artificial. And I doubt that there are zero instances of somebody who was playing with Trapjaw or Fisto or Roboto when they were a little kid and had this wildly traumatic experience, and then following that had oddly a connection and a framework for it that was in this kind of like primordial soup of children's imagination, where all of these characters, their artificial limbs are features, not flaws. You know what I mean? Like, Trapjaw is someone that got into his position by probably, probably a traumatic incident in war or battle, specifically in the comic book version.
Yeah, Skeletor fucked him up.
Yeah, but what it turns out eventually is it's not a deficit; it's a difference. And for him, it's awesome. He's a combat machine. He's got a fucking laser gun hand, and I don't think that there's nothing there that being able to see a limb replacement as a feature rather than a flaw is just total like childish nonsense. I think that there is an accidental stepping down the staircase into a new space where you're like, oh, this is actually kind of like I got to a really good idea in a dumb, accidental, money grubbing, cynical Mattel wants to sell you plastic toys way. But so, it's capitalism, man. Sometimes you got to get to good ideas in crazy ways. So if somebody has a more like robust framework for thinking about their like new artificial arm, their new artificial leg, their new artificial whatever, because they played with Trapjaw or Mechanic or whatever when they were a kid, awesome. That's cool. I think it's fantastic. And in a world where more and more we are going to deal with being interfaced with technology, oddly, a lot of these Masters of the Universe characters, perhaps the most prominent of which is Trapjaw, is like oddly led the way by being bank shot off of a silly like Conan ripoff toy that was originally smashed off of a ripoff of a 007 idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
An Italian
like
Big Jim spy.
Yeah, like an Ian Fleming nightmare dream. Or an Ian Fleming, like, gin-soaked daymare. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't want to dwell too seriously in that, too long in that probably overly serious idea, but I think that it's not a bad thing if we keep introducing these characters, if we continue to have characters who can be strange role models for understanding a different relationship with our body, a different relationship to the idea of disability, a different idea of interfacing with technology, whether it's connecting to computer technology, connecting to ways to have additional mobility, whatever it is. Like, we're a technology-based civilization and a technology-based species. One of our main things is we can build shit and use it to augment our own behavior.
Yeah,
monkeys can't build wheelchairs. You know what I mean?
No, yeah, I came to that realization a while ago, but like recently I thought, like, oh no, I got this depressing bird who's in a cage and somebody took away his thing to fly. And then I started thinking, like, well, what's my thing? I was like, well, I use a computer constantly. And nothing else does that.
Yeah, right.
Only humans do that, or whatever we are, uses technology to the point where we can go 700 miles an hour and it's no big deal.
Yeah,
that happens every day.
I'm really reluctant to quote Joe Rogan. I cannot overestimate how reluctant I am to quote Joe Rogan. I'm not going to get into it in a deep way.
Just quote Joe Rogan.
It's not my vibe, but there was something. I don't listen to his show, but there was some little clip that came up because Google does how it does, and it was him probably talking on his show. I don't know, where he was complaining about there's some stand-up comedy that he was doing, I think, where he was talking about some vegan or somebody talking about, well, human beings are the only animal that consumes another animal's milk. And, his super bro genius logic was, Yeah. We're the only animals that also fly in planes. Yeah. And despite whether you like him or not, there is an inner logic to that, which is we are just not like natural to a certain extent, and that's kind of what it is to be us, right? We're not going to be goats. We're not going to be orangutans. We're not going to be like sexy, dirty monkeys or apes that just hang out and eat fruit all day.
How dude.
Like, technology, to a certain extent...
That's a sexy lifestyle.
Technology, to a certain extent, is what it is to be a human being. Like, basically, you take an ape, you shave it, and you give it language and technology, and you've got a human being. If you take away language or technology, we stop being the thing that we are. We're something else. And whether it's flying
crazy,
in planes... was that an ironic statement?
That's a Joe Rogan joke, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's crazy.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah. But, like, so, you can... And I'm not anti... I think that there are good things in both desires to push toward quote-unquote naturalism and being closer to being in the moment and, eating raw foods and almond milk. And there's a lot of good things in those impulses. But I think also, if you want to, like, smoke a glow-in-the-dark vape and drive a vaporwave silver car through a neon 16-bit video game into the Blade Runner horizon, I think there are also good things in that direction, and they're not all of them are mutually exclusive. It's not like you can only go in one direction.
Look, I don't know if you guys have heard about this article in the New York Times about honeybees vanishing.
You just can't be a human without integrating technology into your lifestyle, even if you think that it's terrible, even if you're a total Luddite. Being a human is using technology. And, like, Trapjaw and some of these strange little 6-inch plastic toys oddly reflect certain ways that we're going to have to integrate with technology as bodies and as people in the 21st century.
Yep.
Ta-da! End of rant.
All that from Trapjaw. So, whenever you tune into the new Masters of the Universe, or whatever it's called, is it called Masters of the Universe?
Yeah, it's called He-Man Revelations, I think.
Oh, really? Okay. So, when you tune into He-Man Revelations, just
no,
remember,
Masters of the Universe Revelation. I'm sorry, I'm fucking you up again.
Revelations. Remember that the human mind is limitless in its potential to repair not only itself, but the body that supports it. So,
yes.
And you got that feeling of invincibility here on Oops, All Monsters. Yes. Mostly from Hess. This was a big Hess-heavy episode.
Well, that's how we're doing these is...
That's what we're going to do.
No, I mean, this is a me topic. I'm going to rant more.
I know. I got it. It's fine. I'm not good.
Have you met me? This is my thing.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
And
I've enjoyed it.
And they thought that they were little girls, but in fact, they were little heroic human robot monsters.
Women.
Women. Monsters.
Women monsters.
Robots.
He truly was a Moby Dick. Peered out into the sunset over the vast, endless ocean.
Call me Ish Monster Robot.
He truly was.
Faces.
A trap jaw.
They truly were an Aqua Teen hunger robot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Back to corrections, like 45 minutes ago or something. There is a mission that tells you to go and kill the Death Claw in Fallout 1. It's given to you by the Gunrunners, but it's also impossible. I stand by what I said in that episode.
Oh, good. Yeah, I don't want to. I don't want to stand in front of the stampede of Fallout boys that are gonna slide into your comments section hard and fast.
If you're playing Fallout
raw
1,
dog it all day and all night.
If you're playing an unmodded Fallout 1, you're not killing the death claws the first time you run into them. That's all I'm saying.
So, like, you're not a real Trapjaw head. You're not even that much of a Masters of the Universe guy. But I know, I know that you had them. So, but
I inherited Neil's. Before 7, I only really played with like Ghostbusters. After 7, I played with GI Joes exclusively, and like all the way into adulthood, which I'm not ashamed to admit anymore. It used to be a big deal that you played with toys and you were 14. Like, that would get your ass kicked. Like,
also, if you were 11 and you wore both straps on your backpack at the same time, somebody would hit you with a cantaloupe on the street. So, like, don't judge what you do or do not do as an adult by what 14-year-olds think about it, because they're trashy idiots.
Yeah, true. But anyway, I was GI Joe exclusive for like the majority of it, and then eventually BattleTech exclusive.
Yeah,
and then
you
eventually
got a G.I.
no
Joe
toys
Gold
at all.
Star.
Yeah, like. And like Ram Man made sense in a G.I. Joe world because his legs did a thing that popped him up into the air, and so like I would put him in the back of a truck. And
I see. He had a little bit of he had a little bit of business.
Yeah.
I think we're probably going to have to do some kind of follow-up episode to this, whether we eventually do another MOTU monster or what, because I think it's tomorrow. I will find out what I think about this new show, and I will have a lot of. If anybody can tell, I will have a lot of think about it. And specifically, and here's a hashtag I want to get going. We should come up with what exact. The comedian / musician / creative bizarro man Reggie Watts, right, Gavin?
Yes.
Well, I feel very strongly that Reggie Watts should voice the character of Zodak, the Cosmic Enforcer.
All right.
In something, whether it's this show, because I don't know why. My brain just combined those things. I'm very familiar with Reggie Watts. I'm a fan of him. I know what agency he has in Los Angeles. I think he's a great, amazing person, and I think he should be Zodak, and I don't know why. It just makes sense to me. As someone, he's kind of got that, like, Duncan Trussell, psychedelic, Robitussin trip, man, like Adventure Time man on a cloud jam thing going on.
Robotussin was a He-Man, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Yeah, yep.
Robotussin.
Rock on Rotar and Robotussin. Yeah, he had.
Let's all get Reggie Watts on board to voice who? Zodak.
Zodak, yeah, Zodak. With a K, with a C, I don't care.
Let's take action to change the internet and all the pop culture that we interact with.
Hashtag make Reggie Watts. Hashtag make Reggie Watts Zodak, and we're going to spell Zodak with a K. Zodak.
Zodak.
Yeah. Hashtag make Reggie Watts Zodak, and I'm sure half of a person will sign that petition.
I don't know how popular we are. I guess we're popular enough to get corrected. So.
By friends of the show, yes. By people, by very, very intimate relations of the show, yes, we're getting corrected, or half corrected. We're getting very nicely corrected, I'll put it that way. Well, all right. I'll put it, when you're getting, like, vociferously corrected by basement Joshes, that's when you know you're there. That's a problem.
Let's try to get there.
That's a problem. It's a problem that you want to have.
Trapjaw, originally called David.
Yeah.
I didn't know this much about Trapjaw. Trapjaw is interesting.
Trapjaw is surprisingly very interesting. This is I'm assuming that this is going to be a pattern that is going to keep happening, where I'm going to have an idea to go like, oh, that'll be cute and contained and nostalgic, and I'll be like, those are the things that this topic is going to be. And then I
normalizing incarceration.
and then I gleefully walk over to my internet machine and go like, what does Reddit have to say about bullywugs? And I'm like, no, they're secret like allegory for the rape of Nanking or whatever the fuck. Like
all kinds of weird esoteric political comparisons to this Dungeons and Dragons monster and like the JFK assassination leading into the Vietnam conflict.
Stratos and Cyclone are a stand-in for the CIA killing Marilyn Monroe. You know, like how did you get there? It's like, you have to see my graph. Like, it's not. I'm confused. I have. I think a lot of things are going to be like the familiar, where I'm like, okay, cool, it's in this one box game I used to play when I was 9. And then, like, oh, no, it exploded, and then that explosion exploded, and now...
And it's going to be everything. Yeah. The things that we used to like have had 40 years to marinate in everybody's imagination. And... companies don't leave this shit alone. They want to keep making money off of it. So, like, the more canon that people come up with, they're gonna gobble it up and go and pick half of it.
One of you're absolutely right, but also the remixing of combining particularly two things: capitalism and mythology, because both of them are hyper fucked up. Like, all of mythology is full of gods turning into geese and raping people, or pretending to be like their spouse and doing weird non-consensual fairy sex, or stealing babies and eating them. Like, mythology is terrifying. And then what do you do? Like, well, if we could make mythology less terrifying, you know how we could do it? We could like Blizzard. We could make it into like a DQ Blizzard with what? Capitalism. So, like, that'll really fix all of the bad vibes, because it doesn't have any bad vibes. Capitalism. So we're gonna chop them, screw them. Great. Nothing bad could happen here. I'm generally at least one thumb up about Kevin Smith. He makes some stuff I don't like, but mostly I think he's a funny, cool guy with good intentions, and I'm glad he didn't die of a heart attack yet. I hope I don't have to tell you, but for our audience, I am about as wild of an original 1985 He-Man head as can possibly exist. I like, you can't even. The proof of it will come out, but I have not even gone into a fraction of the wild, horny He-Man depths that I'm capable of getting to. All of that to say, I really hope it's really cool. I think I have not watched all of it, but I think that the She-Ra show that's been out from a few years ago is actually phenomenal. I think it's fantastic. It pulls up a bunch of the Adventure Time wackiness and thinking outside of the boxiness and inclusivity that was really alienating about the original Masters of the Universe and She-Ra properties. And if Kevin Smith and company, because obviously he's not doing everything, it's animated by a whole legion of interesting people, it's written by a whole room full of people. I realize I do not buy into the auteur theory, but the point is, I hope it's really good. I want it to be fantastic. And also, anybody that has already complained about it being like woke He-Man and has pre-canceled it because Teela is like a main character and maybe sometimes outshines He-Man based off of the fucking trailer, and actually hasn't even seen the show
until you watch
literally Teela was always badass. She should get to be badass in the fucking show. The character is written as like a military leader in the original mini comics. The show is full of super powerful female characters, and not just She-Ra, not just the sorceress, but if you remember, 42-year-old douchebag that's going crazy on Twitter or Reddit right now about this, that in the original mini-comics, they don't thank a god, they thank a goddamn goddess in Eternia, because they all worship a female deity. So eat my woke ass till you're dead.
I'll agree as the non-woke part of the podcast, which would be me, Gavin. I agree. Like, don't judge this shit until you watch it. I've seen so much pre-canceling of this crap, it's ridiculous. And it's making me want to be woke. Why don't you woke me with all of your angry, seething hate? It's pissing me off. You're gonna woke me, and I'm not gonna like it.
Before you go. I'll probably have to carve down my woke ranting there.
Yeah,
it's not even woke ranting. It's anti woke ranting.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's what I was trying to go for, because I'm not a woke person, and I'm also not an anti-woke person. But I am anti-woke. That's annoying. It's all annoying.
Yeah, exactly. Here's the thing: is if you want to distill it, it's kind of like unfortunately, there's like a "you will not replace us" idea that the character of He-Man / Prince Adam has to be, like, for lack of a better term, like, supreme in the show. That it has to be about, everything has to be about what the He-Man / Prince Adam character is doing, and that he's a cool guy with good intentions who saves the day by throwing things into lakes and hitting them with swords.
Yeah.
And inherently, that's the most bankrupt part of the narrative of Masters of the Universe, is that it is a version, it is the sword and sorcery 9-year-old's version of the great American myth. Like, the great American myth is a white guy with good intentions and a gun, or a sword in some cases, is going to solve everybody's problems. He's going to be alone, and he's going to smash the bad guy, and everybody's going to be okay now. And in reality, we do need to be transitioning into a pluralistic sense of who the hero is. And the hero isn't just Prince Adam / He-Man. The hero is collective effort to solve real problems. And what that looks like is goddamn Tila doing things, and Clamp Champ doing things, and Orko, and fucking Jitsu, and everybody from the whole panoply. You know, one of the good things about having this bizarre menagerie full of characters is you can say, like, well, like, it is about groups making choices as opposed to one guy at the top of the good guys, one guy at the top of the bad guys, and them slamming their metaphysical dicks together until nothing happens forever.
Yeah.
But we made a lot of money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now for a segment we are calling Describing Benicio, where we talk about a particular photo of actor, Heineken enthusiast, and your legal counsel, Benicio del Toro.
We used to describe Nick Cave, but that left us with such a... It left us with the realization that eventually we're not going to be able to do that.
Well, I really didn't know what the segment was when I started it, and maybe I still don't know. But here we are with a segment we are calling Describing Benicio, where we describe a particular photo of actor, Heineken enthusiast, and your legal counsel, Benicio del Toro. Did the Discord throw up the picture?
Yeah, I see him.
Okay.
Oh, he's young.
Yeah, I went for another young one. I kind of did I zoom in there effectively? Can you see?
Yeah, I see it.
Man, that guy's got a lot of hair. I think we talked about this the last time. It's been a while since we recorded the last time, but God, this guy's like half hair. And, but like, it's kind of like, how do I describe it? It's kind of like if
He looks good.
No, he looks good. It kind of looks like, I don't know if he's like 21 in this. It's hard to tell. But he kind of looks like if you poured like a weird tonic on James Dean and you're like, hey, like Man, my hair looks even better today. But this is like day 6 in the creep show like thing where like Stephen King's being overrun by the space moss.
Yeah,
and you're like, oh my god, it's like it looks like almost a Halloween wig. That's what
this looks like. He is keeping his hair unkempt, and it is growing out, and it would be a problem for anybody else, but he just keeps looking fantastic.
Yeah.
And he seems to know this, and he's cool about his Stephen King moss taking over problem.
He's been making this face for a really long time.
Yeah.
Like, he's like this. That's one of the things I've learned about people is they make the same faces their whole lives, and he likes making this face.
Yeah.
It's got a driver's license photo, or it's got a real like. Why are you taking my... I bet this is a reference photo for a very early project. Like, I'm getting my picture taken. His eyebrows are bananas. You know what? His eyebrows are so crazy. You know what it reminds me of? Is Brad Dourif in the original Dune movie.
Yeah.
Where all of those guys... They're not... No, are they the Mentats? I thought the Mentats were the leather jacket guys.
No, the Mentats are the human computers. Pretty sure.
Yeah. But aren't those the guys that pull out the like pussy monster?
What? No, those guys are Spice Guild members. They're.
Oh, you're right. Those are the Mentats. Okay, Brad Dourif as he's got a particular name. Because he's a very important character in the Duneverse, and I'm gonna look like a total chode bucket if I don't know his character's name because he gets killed in a very interesting way.
Are you trying to think of his Piter DeBreeze?
Piter, yeah. Brad Dourif plays Piter. The exact way that his eyebrows look remind me of Piter from the original Dune, portrayed by Brad Dourif. Like he looks like he's just had a little bit too much of the juice of Safu right here.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, it might put my mind in motion.
His lips have just not yet acquired the stains.
But his mind's certainly in motion.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I don't know if they would. I mean, the Mentats got some pretty whack ass haircuts at least in the David Lynch version.
That's what we need to do. Like Benicio del Toro, the perfect Mentat.
Yeah, as young. I mean, if you took Benicio now and you put him in one of those like new Dune movies and scruffed up his eyebrows and ruffled up his hair and juiced up his lips,
it'd be a natural fit.
He'd be a terrifyingly awesome Mentat.
Yeah.
I mean, shit, you could take Brad Dourif again now and just make him a new Mentat. I mean, I know he's old, but I don't know. I don't know if they're old Mentats or not. I'm not that much of a Dune head. There are?
Yeah. Okay, Thufir Howat was a old Mentat.
Well, there you have it, folks.
There we go. I know about Dune. I got my Dune.
More about Dune than
brain.
I do. Yeah, but Benicio's got this real. I don't know. I would call it a like a stoned Mentat vibe here. This very basic Hanes white shirt that he's rocking. It's a very stark photo. Maybe next week we'll do a modern era, a modern era one. But I don't know. There's something about these young Benicio pictures are very compelling to me. He's just like he's fun to look at this age. I don't know. He's got a. I can see it's very much like a Cuban James Dean vibe that he's throwing out.
Yeah, it's really easy to see how he got cast in movies. I mean, the presence that he has is James Dean. Like it's cooler than what you would expect with an amount of empathy not normally associated with Devil May Care guys, because he could care and he does understand, but there's just circumstances where he cannot.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, presumably we would all hope, this is both one of the features and the flaws of James Dean is you assume that given longevity, he would have had a very complex series of roles that would have had a lot more depth and gravity. not that his roles didn't have gravity, but, he got to play the same set of very similar characters in a very finite amount of roles, where Benicio's been playing things for decades and has gotten to be all sorts of different kinds of characters that are a lot more subtle than James Dean ever got to play. So,
yeah.
It's you can see where this guy was like, hey, I can be an actor. Like, look at my fucking hair.
Yeah.
Look at my fucking hair.
Was his first thing in the Pee-wee movie?
You're fucking right. His first movie is Big Top Pee-wee.
Yeah.
How did you pull that?
I just know a lot of stuff.
1988, Duke the Dog-Faced Boy.
Yeah, I just know a lot of stuff.
There are 5 TV series before that, and then literally his first movie. If you go to Hicksville in the crazy desert people, California, which is a place that I love. When you see photos of me like on the internet, and I'm like in a weird, trashy like trailer park in the middle of nowhere, that's Hicksville. One of the trailers you can stay in is the Gypsy, which is Pee-wee's where Pee-wee stayed. It's like a little covered wagon kind of gypsy thing in Big Top Pee-wee. It's actually the same one. It's not a recreation. It's literally the one from Big Top Pee-wee. It's one of the slightly more expensive ones, but it's pretty cool. I didn't stay in it, but I've looked around at it. It's awesome. For your Big Top Pee-wee heads, go stay at Hicksville in the outside of Joshua Tree, California. All right. So cool. That
I love Benicio del Toro.
Duke the Dog-Faced Boy, which I had totally forgotten about. All right,
Duke
so
the
that
Dog-Faced Mentat.
That has been Duke the Dog-Faced Mentat. Oh, God. That's a hashtag right there.
Set my mind in motion.
The Bone of Safu.
Yeah.
All right. That was
balls.
describing
Benicio del Toro.
Okay. And that brings us to the end of our time with you, dear reader. Until next time, when we deliver you another batch of beasts, bullywugs, and bowls of flesh-eating dessert fluff.
If you'd be so kind as to tell a friend, or support our cut, copy, paste, or us by throwing Oops All Monsters a 5-star review on iTunes, it really does help. Also, I have a Twitch channel where I play Battletech, MechWarrior, Cyberpunk, and other random stuff. I will hop on that as soon as I can. I know I haven't been on there a lot, but I will soon. Go ahead.
Yep, he's on there. You'll find him. Share an episode on your favorite social media. Hit up that Instagram each episode. Reminder, each episode for the pictures of these monsters and Benicios and other topics as we're discussing them as we make the show. So if you are feeling lost not seeing the images we're discussing, get over on that Instagram.
And comment on Instagram with the monsters that you would want to see, or email your suggestions for what monsters we should cover in the most ridiculous gaming mishaps, or any gaming story at all, anything related to RPGs, to oopsallmonsters@gmail.com, and my Twitch channel is Gavin Longshanks at twitch.com. Our email for the podcast is oopsallmonsters@gmail.com.
And if you want to toss a coin into the Potion Fund, hit us up with a one-shot contribution at paypal.me/oopsallmonsters, or if you're really froggy, at patreon.com/oopsallmonsters. Lastly, I have to thank my wonderful friend Katie for our incredible theme song. Her work as part of the duo The Darling Kathleens can be found on YouTube at The Darling Kathleens. And with that, I have been Hess.
And I have been Gavin Longshanks.
And this has been
Oops All Monsters.
Oops All Monsters.
Oops.
Oops
All Monsters.
Hey everybody, this is Editor Aaron. I just wanted to give a couple of notes on things that were in the episode that you may not have had a chance to write down while you were listening or missed along the way. So one, that podcast that I plugged toward the beginning that's by those cool Toronto illustrators is called Dark Future Dice. It's a cyberpunk red show, really, really excellent writing and really fun to listen to. That's Dark Future Dice. Go check them out. They're on Instagram. They're also called Rocket Adrift is their illustration company that they do together. Additionally, make sure to check out our link tree for the YouTube that will have exclusive extras from stuff that gets cut out of this episode and other episodes for primarily length reasons. I had a heck of a extra chunk in there ranting with Gavin about the prison industrial complex, and more so for more than cutting it out for content, it's just this episode was getting long even on just using one topic, so I wanted to cut it off, but also still throw it up somewhere so you could enjoy that over on youtube.com/oopsallmonsters. Also, you will probably have noted that I bleeped out the name of Gavin's role-playing game project that he's been developing, mostly because I want to have we want to make sure that he gets some full anticipation of what that's going to be when that eventually comes out. So I don't want anything to get spoiled ahead of time. So if you're thinking, man, these guys have a crazy role-playing game that they've designed, that sounds something really interesting. In honesty, it's not me at all. It's 125% all Gavin's thing. But when that is available, we'll announce everything specific about that. So that's why that got bleeped out. Lastly, if our conversation about the subject of troops that have had limb loss and artificial limbs and surgeries coming back from American foreign wars in the post 9/11 era, and that's an interesting topic where you might want to hit up a charity, I recommend Homes for Our Troops. Homes for Our Troops, if you just Google that phrase, is an incredible charity that 100% builds and donates new homes designed custom for the needs of troops with specific needs and disabilities here in the United States. 90% of every dollar that they get goes directly into creating and delivering those custom homes toward those veterans. So Homes for Our Troops, also at HFOTUSA, if you look it up that way. Homes for Our Troops. All right, have a good one.